For so much of my Christian life, I was caught in the religious bondage of doing and trying to be, not understanding the freedom of my identity in Christ, not understanding the beauty of what it meant to really be Christian, not really understanding how to participate and experience Christ's life. And I came to this ministry back in 2000, and there I began to hear these liberating truths, and it began a journey that I'm still on and still excited about. In fact, when I find myself getting down as I am pressed into the work that God's called me to, it begins to lift my spirits and lift my attitudes and begins to refocus me to whom I really am. And before I know it, those things that had begun to kind of pull me down are no longer a concern, because I am soaring with Him once again. But it was back in the early days of my involvement in this ministry, in fact, the spring of 2003, I had been on staff and I began to counsel, and the director at that time was retiring. And so there was a nationwide search for a new executive director for the ministry. And after several months of searching and interviewing candidates from different places, the board approached me and said, "Don, we'd like to have you pray and consider coming on as the new executive director of the ministry." And honestly, for the first time in my life, I wasn't seeking a ministry, and I was so relieved not to have it. I almost didn't want to consider it, to be honest with you, because it was such a burden that was taken off of me. But it was a genuine request, and so they asked me on the particular day, whatever it was, and I remember going home and going to bed, and about 3 o'clock in the morning, I woke up and trying to get back to sleep, and the Lord began to speak to me. And He asked me a question. He said, "Don, do you remember that phrase that you used to kind of live your life by?" And He reminded me of this religious mantle that I was under, this burden that I was under, which basically said this: don't seek a ministry, anticipate the fruit of a disciplined life. And I said, "Oh yeah, Lord, that just about killed me." I wore myself out trying to accomplish that, trying to seek this church and that opportunity, and always becoming frustrated, never feeling like it was going to be accomplished. And then Jesus said to me, He says, "Don, would you like to hear how I would rephrase that statement?" I said, "I'm trying to get back to sleep. Sure, go ahead, Lord, see if you can keep me awake." It's like, and I heard Him say, "Don, don't seek a ministry. Anticipate the fruit of your union life in me, in Christ." And I said, "Wow, Lord, I'd never thought of that. I really like that." And He says, "Well, if you'll get out of bed, that's what I'd like to talk to you about." So I jumped out of bed and I went to my office, and at 3:30 in the morning, for the next hour, God began to just pour His revelation into me, and He began to remind me of His faithfulness in my life. And He used 1 Thessalonians 5:24 as the verse, because I was intimidated by this request. I knew that I was not adequate to lead a ministry, particularly in the condition that the ministry was in. It was in a bad place, financially and otherwise. And I didn't even know how bad it was until I stepped into the role. And so I didn't really want to do it, and I didn't feel capable or adequate to do it. And God said, "Don, faithful am I, who am calling you, who will also do it." And I said, "Okay, God, if you're the one calling me to do it, and you're going to accomplish it through me, I guess I don't have any argument." And so I agreed to participate with him and to answer the call. And so here we are now, 2019, so many years later, and God has been more than faithful to do exceedingly, abundantly, above all that I could have ever imagined or asked or thought, because of his faithfulness. He's the one doing it, and he continues to do it. So I want to encourage you with that personal testimony.